Welcome everyone to my next video on assignment 7083. So this is the assignment in which you have to research a foreign country and write a report on that in the form of a letter. So as you can see, we're in the wiki page where it explains what the assignment is. So this is the prompt. I'm going to scroll down to tasks. And what we're working on right now is research for task 2. So at this point, you should have written an audience analysis on your audience for this report, which is Bruce Erickson, the director of the Program for Professional Writing. So now I want to focus on researching my content for this report, okay? So first thing you need to do is identify what country you're going to be writing this report on. So to do that, you will need to access your university identification number, so your UIN, and you only need to look at the last number of your UIN. And that will coordinate to a country down here in Table A. You just scroll down. So the last number of my UIN is 4. And so I would be doing a report on Indonesia. Okay, so now that I know the country I need to research, now I need to identify what kind of information I'm supposed to be researching. And to find that out, you just need to click on this link right here, 7083 International. So if you click on that page, that will open up another page in the wiki. And as you can see, it gives you 13 questions that you will need to answer in this report. Now, some of these are very basic, like what the official name is, but some of them are a little bit more complicated, like what are some of the common business customs in the country. So this is really an introduction to research skills that you're going to develop later, and that's going to be essential, especially for your group projects. So you're going to be using a combination of primary and secondary research. And so if you've listened to my earlier videos on research, you'll know that primary research or primary sources are pure data, pure information. So that might be the results of an experiment, or if I'm doing a report on a restaurant, the menu would be a primary source. If I want to say what variety of dishes it serves or how many vegetarian dishes there are, I could use the menu as a primary source. Other examples of primary research would be interviews, surveys, things like that. Now, secondary research or secondary sources are sources where a writer or someone else other than you takes pure information like primary sources and interprets it. So for example, if I went online and found the transcript of an interview and it's just the questions and answers verbatim, that would be a primary source, even if I didn't conduct that interview myself. However, if I went online and found an article talking about that interview, then that would be a secondary source. That article about the interview would be a secondary source because it's somebody else deciding what to quote, what it means, what to leave out, and so we're getting that through a secondary writer. Okay. So you'll need probably a combination of primary and secondary sources, and I'm not going to put a limitation on how many there should be. I would simply recommend that you gain this information or answer these questions from the most reliable sources you can find, whether they be primary or secondary. So for example, if I wanted to find out, what is the official currency of Indonesia, I could do a Google search. I could do that. I could look at news articles. Those would be okay. Now, if I wanted to use a Wikipedia page, so as you can see, this is Wikipedia, and I type in Indonesia, oops. Now, I would not want to cite the Wikipedia page because I have no idea who the author is of this, and it can be changed by anybody. Even if they came in here and changed a single word, I wouldn't know it. However, you can use Wikipedia to locate more reliable sources. So for example, I could come down here and find all of its references. And if I find useful information as I'm reading the Wikipedia page, I can come down here and try to find the original source of that information. And the original source is what I would want to use as my research. Okay, so while Wikipedia is not good to use as an actual source for your report, it is an okay place to start just to give you ideas and maybe to find reliable sources. So these are all sources. You can see what works they cited, and if there's a link, you can use that. And there's some encyclopedia information you can link to. Okay, so overall, don't use Wikipedia as a source, but it's an okay place to start to maybe lead you to more reliable sources. Alternatively, so I have set up over in our Moodle page. If you go to our Moodle page, here it is, and click on week 2, scroll down here to the bottom, and you see this Word document for research databases. So I've done a little bit of work for you, and I've set up some instructions for how to access 3 specific sources that I think will be useful. So if you click on that, this is the Word document that will pop up. And so this just takes you through getting into 3 sources that might be useful in this report. The first 2 are government reports. And so these are secondary sources, and you just start by going to the University of Illinois Library website, library.illinois.edu. Just follow these steps, and it will lead you to 2 different databases that I've found useful: the Statesman's Yearbook and the CIA World Factbook. That is not a spelling error. That is Factbook, not Facebook. And so both of these databases have a bunch of reports on countries, states, and cities. And if you look in these, you should be able to find reports that have just about all of the information you need in order to answer most of those 13 questions. Another place you can look is in encyclopedic information. And so I've just picked out one, the Oxford Reference. And so this is a direct link to where you can click on Oxford Reference, type in the country that you want to search for, and then refine your search however you want. Now, I know that everybody is probably taking this class in different places, and you may not be in Champaign, Illinois, so that you can go to the library yourself. So all of these sources I checked, and you can access this information electronically. So those are 3 places that you can look for this information. However, I would really emphasize the fact that our library is a really great resource that you already have access to a lot of information. So I would really steer you away from going to Google Scholar because it has far less content than what you can get through our library. And sometimes they'll actually ask you to pay for it on Google Scholar. And that's unnecessary because anything you can find in Google Scholar, you can find through our library and you won't have to pay for it. So this is the library website, library.illinois.edu. And so if you go through those sources that I showed you and you still have some questions left, you can look around here yourself, or you can come over here to this chat window and ask a librarian for help. It's really easy to use. I've used it a couple times to test it out. You just type in your question here, click submit, and it'll start a chat window with, often it's a graduate student studying library sciences, but they'll be able to point you in the right direction if you tell them specifically what you're looking for and what kind of information you need. They should be able to tell you what databases to look in and how to get there. Okay, so going back to our 13 questions, you should be trying to answer these with a combination of primary and secondary sources. So for example, if we look at question 13, you may not be able to find this in a report. You might be able to find a news article or an opinion article about this, which would be fine. But you may end up finding that the easiest way to answer this question is to interview someone who's done business in Indonesia. So I would really recommend that you do that. If you know someone, or if you can find someone who's done business in Indonesia or your country that you're doing this report on, ask them these questions, and that'll be a great source. All right, so that is basically what I would recommend for the research part of this assignment. What I'll be talking about in my next video is how to synthesize this information to answer the questions that you will then need to talk about in your report. All right. So if you have any further questions about how you might go about researching, I hope you'll bring those questions to our virtual classroom or send me an email. Good luck.